Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. It's a catalog of other things to eat. They're eating the dogs. Whoa, 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 whoa. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. Whoa, 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 whoa. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow.
Oh, you gotta love that song. How you doing, Abigail? She likes it so much she wants to play it again.
I'm doing very well, Arden. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I'm drinking caramel salted basement coffee.
Isn't basement coffee the best? I'm going actually with a light roast, just a very simple coffee, light roast coffee, but it's made in the basement. So hello everyone and welcome to We Are a Crotchety Old Man
And a Woman,
the podcast for you, with you, and sometimes even about you. Well, this weekend is actually more all about us, but where I just want to say last week was redonkulous because we actually had more people in Europe listen to our podcast than we had in the United States. I don't even know what the multiplication number is that we had because we shattered our record. Like it wasn't double, wasn't triple, wasn't quadruple. I don't know what like the number was, but all I know is we had so many. We went global in a big way. We had every, I'm going to say populated continent because we didn't have Antarctica, but we had downloads from every single continent. South America, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Africa. Crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. And normally Arden doesn't disclose the title of our podcast until he posts it.
Well, that is true.
So, Arden, tell him what the
title
will be.
It is They're Eating the Dogs, They're Eating the Cat, Part 2. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But are you hungry?
I'm always hungry, Arden.
Well, today was one of the rare international food days. It was International Eat an Apple Day. Not much excitement there.
Okay.
And in America, I was a little annoyed at that. This one, it's National Pecan Cookie Day. Like a couple of weeks back, it was National Pecan Sandy Day, which is already a frickin' cookie. I'm tired of these pecan crap. Why on Saturdays is it always a pecan?
Well, I can assure you, Arden, I don't like either.
As I have another sip of my non-pecan flavored coffee. Effing boopadoodles. So before we get into our really good stuff, we got to go through the history. There was a lot of important history that happened today, the 21st. Usually I don't even mention the day, but September 21st. Maybe I should start doing that.
Okay, Arden, let's start it off.
Okay.
We've got 1780. What happened?
Benedict Arnold met with Major Jean-André, even though it sounds very French, he actually was British, to discuss the handing over of West Point to the British. From that day forward, he became the biggest trader in American history. Yeah, there were other traders, but he literally was bent on having this great name. He was an amazing general, but he never got the credit he was due until later in history because General Gates was his commanding officer, and he felt he was due. So he left, but what most people don't realize, he just went to England, but he actually did fight in a battle against the Americans, believe it or not.
I think that's enough about that.
Yeah, that trading
Okay,
bastard.
in 1792, what happened?
Well, because of the American Revolution, in 1792, the French monarchy ended in France. It officially was ended. But because of that revolution, we had Napoleon, who also changed the entire world because even in Europe, it was another world war, but in Europe, but he gave us the Louisiana Purchase.
Okay, so I like part one of that statement because you know how I feel about monarchies.
You are not a fan, but he
No.
became an emperor.
Yeah,
A little different.
I'm not a fan of what happened afterwards, but it was good to see that abolished.
Abolished. Well, this one is a little different. I actually do not know about this, so I apologize. But in 1823, Joseph Smith had a vision of Moroni, who gave him the belief that the church got to restore. Excuse me, I can't even read my own handwriting. Restore God's church on earth, and he then began the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I actually didn't realize how old that was until now. Then we have going forward in 1939. President FDR urges the Neutrality Act to be amended. The Neutrality Act was in 1937, but he wanted it to be amended to lessen restriction on arms sales to our allies. We were not in World War II yet, but Britain was. The Battle of Britain was actually happening at this point, so we were sending all of our weapons over to them.
Kind of like Ukraine.
A little different though.
Why?
Because Ukraine, Russia actually Germany didn't own England at any time in history. Kiev was actually the capital of Russia before Moscow, but that's all other history. We can get into.
Have I told you, Arden, how smart you are when it comes to history?
Well, actually, I can thank the TV show Vikings for that one, but I did know that already. Moving on, 10 years later, another very important date, Mao Zedong, and I'm calling him Mao Zedong, he actually outlined the new Chinese government into their version of the Communist Party that they still have today, which is pretty amazing. Then I think that was almost all of them, but did I miss any?
Yes.
I missed my most important one. In 2008, the last baseball game was played at the old Yankee Stadium. Now, the reason I bring this up is as a Yankee fan, if you could see the picture of that we have right now, we got to start doing some Instagram because right next to me, I have pictures of all of the old Yankee stadiums and a hilltop park where the Highlanders played. So every version of the Yankees, I have pictures of. So it's that place was a cathedral. Now, there's a lot of beautiful baseball parks, Petco Park, Miller Park, Camden Yards. They're not stadiums. You walked into Yankee Stadium, you were in a building. It was just massive, and you felt a presence there, if that makes sense.
I'm glad, I'm sad I didn't get to go.
And I've never been to the new one, but I heard that's what's missing from it. Like, you don't get that feeling of Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio. You don't get the feeling of the greatest players in baseball history. You just don't have that now. I mean, you got Jeter. Yay, the house that Jeter built.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Arden, but let's move on to our next segment, which is not necessarily going to be every week, but it is a new one. And we're titling it "A Day in Arden's Life" because what happened to him is something very unique.
So, first of all, I have to preface it by saying there's a reason why this whole thing began. I was actually at a library near our house. And I'm going to say a library because there's a bunch of other libraries in this area, which is kind of surprising right off the bat. And you're probably saying to yourself, wow, why is he going to a library? Abigail actually has a housekeeper who, even when I'm working, will throw me out of the house. So I'm not really working from home. I have to work from somewhere else. So I go to this library and I'm there, and I got to make this sort of a shorter story. So I go to there, I get there early, I got a nice little seat. I'm sitting there, I'm working on my computer, having a good time, looking at stuff. Actually, I was looking at stuff for my show, but don't tell my boss that. But anyway, this lady comes in. I don't know where she was from. She could have been from India, Pakistan, and she had these huge books, and she was reading them. And this other woman sits down, and she was studying for her citizen test. So I was interested, and she's reading, and they're talking, and the woman who was helping her as her tutor. Now, I don't want to sound like a crazy nut job, but she was already an ultra liberal, not a Democrat, an ultra liberal. Because when she was talking about the citizen test, the woman was actually asking her questions like, "What does this mean? What does that mean?" And this lady was always giving her point of view, and she wasn't saying that this was her point of view. For example, she was talking about how we should have universal health care here, how the taxes are not fair to the poor people. How, now I'm not rich at all, as you know, but how she was saying it. After, for a while, I'm just listening. I don't know. I was texting Abigail like every 5 seconds. Like, I'm losing my mind listening to this woman. Now, where we live in Loudoun County, Virginia, is a very big lib Democrat county in Virginia. It's known for the father who literally got arrested for fighting for his daughter's rights, who was she was harassed,
And raped.
right, by a transgender person who had already had that happen before. So that's what Loudoun County was. And the father got arrested. It was on the news for quite a long time. But anyway, this woman was getting me upset. And then she all of a sudden started to talk about how bad capitalism was. I had enough. After about 20 minutes of listening to her bash just anything. Now, I don't think I did my best. If it was 10 years ago, I would have been throwing books. I would have flipped over the table. The police would have had to be called and I would have been dragged away in handcuffs, but not this time. I walked over and I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but could you please stop giving your own opinions?" And she looked at me, she goes, "Well, what do you mean my opinions?" I was like, "You are completely not representing what everything was." Great example, like she was talking about how the Republican Party, not like the conservatives, the Republican Party, there's that the Republican Party wants to cut spending drastically and only wants to have minimum spending. Now, some people believe that. I said, "Well, ma'am, you should actually say that there's people in the U.S. who support less spending, that smaller government." And she actually then started to say, "Well, I think that our government should do everything for its people." And that's where I kind of lost it, where I said, "Well, in the old days, we used to talk about it was cradle to grave, how the Democrats wanted to take care of you." But I didn't even go. I said from the uterus to the grave and then some, because you're lucky if you get born these days. Um, and so it started from there. It went back and forth, and I literally was letting her have it, but in a calm way. I said, "Yeah, like you want all of the spending on the United States. You want us to spend for your health care, your medical costs," because she wanted universal health care. I said, "We can't afford it." And she goes, "Well, the millionaires and billionaires can afford it." I said, "They're too busy spending all of that money on Ukraine, getting back to Ukraine." I said, "They're too busy spending money on all of these other things, like multi-billion-dollar docks outside of Gaza that they knew wouldn't be permanent." I mean, so I was getting really angry, but I was calm. This lady got so mad. The librarians came over and they were like, "Sir, you have to sit down, sir." And I'm like, why would I have to sit down? I'm the one who's being calm. This lady's standing up. Like, I thought she was ready to fight. I thought she was going to drop the gloves and just start swinging at me. She stormed off. She slammed her book down. She's the tutor. Slams her book down and then starts cursing me out. And I'm just like, "Well, ma'am, this is I actually have freedom of speech, something that you don't want me to have." as if you're following this election, they don't want me to have freedom of speech. And here it is. I'm allowed to disagree with you, ma'am. And that set her off where she literally grabbed her crap and stormed out of there. I then looked at the poor woman and I said, "Welcome to America. I am terribly sorry that I interfered, but there are people who have differences in opinion. But we are allowed to talk about it. We are allowed to debate. We're not going to shoot each other, hopefully, where you can be different. That's the whole purpose of what America stands for." And she just gave me this weird look, and then she smiled and she said, "Thank you." And I said, "Once again, I am sorry. I got my stuff." Meanwhile, the librarians were like completely stunned. And I'm looking around. There is 20 people, which was surprising for a library on a Friday morning, but there was 20 people looking at me. I was hoping for like a little applause. I got nothing. And then I was worried. I'm like, I hope that lady didn't know where my car was, because I guarantee that she would have like broke my antenna or like, and she would have kicked my tires or done something to me. But yeah,
All
so I
I
walked
know
out.
is I came home for lunch that day, and Arden told me about all this, and I just smiled because the conservative badass came out
It
that
did.
day.
And it very
And
rarely, I hold my tongue 90, and I tried. I tried. It was like somebody was kept poking me and prodding me. That lady was worse than a child on an airplane. Yeah, I mean, she was just, and Donald Trump is so wrong, and Donald Trump is this, and he's so bad. Shut up, lady. I've had enough of this bullshit.
well, Arden,
Fired up.
can I tell everyone how we met?
Yes, I'm gonna drink some coffee and calm down all of a sudden.
So I was on eHarmony. It was my last ditch effort to try to find a companion. And on the eHarmony profiles, most people put their political leanings. Well, I started clicking liberal, 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 liberal. And
What?
then after many times, it said conservative. So I clicked on it, and it was Arden. And I just emailed him and I said, "I don't have time to go back and forth with emails. Let's just meet for coffee and see if we want to see each other again." And he agreed to that. And needless to say, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, we're still together.
And I even messed up on our first date where I actually thought she lived in a different town. So I actually tried to make our meetup spot halfway. That was my plan. And it was actually so far away from her. Abigail drove over a half hour. I didn't mean it.
I mean,
I felt
Sterling
like
and
shit.
Springfield sound the same, I
I know,
guess.
but it's like a 40-minute ride. So I apologize. But hey, she said yes to going out again. So
Yeah, even though on that first date he talked the whole time.
yeah, and our anniversary is coming up. What did we make it, the day after Veterans Day or something
We
like
just
that?
made it up, but it was in November.
So we celebrate all November. Anyway, that was me. So we need, I think, what is Ask Abigail or something like that?
Ask Abigail
Ask
is
Abigail.
up. So lay it on me.
So this was actually more of like a question, because I've kind of closed my ears when Abigail starts talking about like her well, I'm not going to use the vulgarity she uses about her HOA with the housing authority, because we're having our deck built. So I want to know, what is wrong with it, HOA? Can you explain what an HOA is? Because like my mom doesn't have one.
Okay, so I would say beginning in the 1990s, maybe the 1980s, when new subdivisions were built, HOAs, or what they call homeowners associations, were basically created. And the rules and regulations of an HOA are to protect several aspects of your neighborhood. They can dictate, the garbage company you're going to use, the pool, everything. You pay a dues for it. And for most people today, it's $85 a month, and that covers their garbage and the use of the amenities.
Which isn't bad at all.
Correct. But if you break any rules or you don't pay your assessments, an HOA can actually put a lien on your house and take it over.
And who creates these rules? I know, like the HBO.
They're made of board members of residents of the community.
Wow. So so you yourself could actually be a member of this board.
I could.
So it sounds like a bunch of Karens.
Pretty much. But the problem for me is I am within an HOA, a condominium HOA.
Double HOAs.
And they are a disaster. You can't do anything without approval from the architecture design group of the condominium association. You can't paint your door a different color without asking, and most likely you would be denied. I went to do my deck, found out I had to use a contractor that had over $2 million of insurance and had a Virginia license when I wanted my handyman to build the damn deck. But I had to go through this 6-month process, filling out forms, providing architectural drawings, you name it. And then I even had to get signatures from neighbors to get approval. So I finally got it, and I'm pleased that the deck is almost done. And next up will be the patio. But I look at all my neighbors, and they've broken so many HOA rules. And, I do it right, and I guarantee they're going to come back and say something about me.
Right.
I mean, what did you see today, Arden?
With everything, well, so today, the guys building our deck are great business guys. They do so many good sales because right across there's, I guess, like a little grassy common area where you could share it. Our neighbors actually asked them if they could come in, tear off like the flooring of their deck and replace it. No HOA, no inspectors coming from the city. They just came in and they did it. I'm thinking maybe because there's no structural change except for the flooring, like all the pillars and everything are the originals, but they did it. I mean, there's air conditioned units. They're not supposed to be, shrubs that are a mess. I mean, it's weird, but of course, Abigail is playing by the rules. And like a lot of people in Loudoun County, most people don't play by the rules.
And on top of that, you pay a very high assessment every month because these are considered condominiums. So I'll just leave it that it's almost a car payment, and it's just obscene. But if you don't play by their rules, they actually have the ability to take over your home. Anyway,
unbelievable.
So we have a new segment that won't necessarily occur every episode, but we're going to call it In the News. Arden?
There was so much in the news that happened. Like, it seems like it was a month ago. So where to start? I mean, we can go back to the cats and dogs because people really want to know about that. I've changed my opinions on things in the past 2 years, 3 years, because I don't believe anything on either side anymore when it comes to the news. After the Biden laptop, and all of the BS of the red wave and everything else, I don't believe it. I watched a town hall in Springfield. By the way, do you know who also lives in Springfield with family?
Well, I lived in Springfield growing up.
In Virginia.
In Virginia.
But you didn't live in Springfield, Ohio. But you know who lived there?
No.
The Simpsons, who are still on Fox. And now they have had 2 cats and a dog. So but the dog is still alive. But do you know by chance either of the cats' names or the dog?
No.
But do you know they might be eaten? Someone might eat them. So there's a lot. They had an actual town hall. By the way, the answer was Snowball 1, Snowball 2, and Santa's Little Helper is the dog. Anyway, useless knowledge that I have. But they had this town hall, and this woman is talking about how this one person chased her with a machete. One guy said there are no stray animals anymore. He goes, that was actually a problem. Now that problem is gone. There are no stray animals. And that's kind of where they're getting the dogs and cats. They had one lady who talked about, she didn't live in Springfield, but she said her cat went missing. Unknown. All we know is that the population went from like 25,000 to 60,000 in less than 5 years, and most of them are Haitian immigrants. Some illegal, some legal. It has boomed. They can't afford it. And we're doing this nationwide, all over the place. And the reason this issue is big is because no one is paying attention. If someone gets killed, some little girl gets raped, a little boy got raped like 3 weeks ago. That was like in the news for a minute, gone. Women are being attacked, people are being killed. No one really cares. But you mentioned dogs and cats, and all hell is breaking loose. So that's why this is a big story.
It is indeed.
Sorry, I'm going long here. But yeah, so that's the cats and dogs. We had the president. He wasn't shot at, but this was a little scary. This happened Sunday, when we were the second assassination. By the way, did you see there was funding? The funding to secure more money for Trump's security team passed unanimously in the House. Nothing passes unanimously in the House, but that did.
Yeah.
But anyway, that happened. But a weird story was Sunday afternoon when we were driving home, we stopped by Trump's golf courses in Virginia. It's down the road from us in walking distance. And we were driving around the back part of it. And like when I heard that there was he almost got assassinated, not almost, but a person was caught at his golf course. I literally went, oh shit. Like, were we on camera? Were they monitoring us? Was there helicopters following us? I mean, we didn't know it was in Florida at that exact second, but that was kind of scary. What else do we got going on?
Well, there's a new song out that apparently is #1 in the U.S. that you played for me tonight.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me about it?
This is a song. It's called "Fighter" by John Cons. Now, I have to admit, if you're not a Trump fan, you probably have never heard it before. I heard it. Unless you're watching the video, I would never even listen to that song again. But when you watch it with the black and white video for Donald Trump, who is now playing it at his rallies, it's a great song just for the moment. Like 5 years from now, people will be like, "What was that song?" But and I would never download it. But he had over like 10 million downloads. It's the #1 song on Billboard. It's the #1 most downloaded song. It's crazy how huge it's gotten. It's kind of like there was that song like early last year, like the one guy was playing at the country fairs that got really big. I forgot the name of it, and it lasted. But he was just singing about being a poor white man, just struggling, and that caught on.
You just wasted 10 seconds. Let's move on.
I'm sorry, but I recommend that you take a listen to it. Then we had the big news. Did you hear about the pagers and walkie-talkies exploding?
I sure did, and I thought it was the most awesome thing ever. Ever.
It's amazing. Israel actually set up extra companies. They knew that the terrorist groups of Hezbollah was looking to buy these things and use them. So they actually went in and actually bought this equipment like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they were the ones who actually built it. Then they sold it to them, and then boom, 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 all of these people were getting killed. It was like 12,000 people were injured. You know what? I don't care. Good.
It was sweet, sweet, sweet justice, and you got to give it to the Israelis. They're very smart, and they get it done.
But your favorite girl, AOC, and I am calling her a girl because she's got a mentality of a never mind. But she literally was all against it. I mean, it's unbelievable. They hate America. They hate Israel. I mean, stop it. Like if this happens, AOC would not be in power. If they took over the United States, she would not be in power. It just they're shooting themselves in the foot for their own power that they think.
All right, the next topic is something that I've always disagreed about, and Arden did too. But he's going to take it up this time.
Yep.
And that is for
early voting. I have been against early voting forever, since I could vote, and I was like, why would you ever do that? Why would you wait until something comes up? That October surprise, blah 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 blah. I can understand that for someone who is on the fence. As you could tell, I am not on the fence. So I'm sitting here going, you know what? Why not? The Democrats do it. But I was listening to David Webb. He's on satellite radio, Patriot Radio in the mornings. And he's like, why would you not do it? He goes, the what if factor. What if your car breaks down? What if you're in an accident? What if you get COVID and you cannot vote? Get out now. Now, I believe almost in the pageantry, the spectacle of voting, on election day and going in and actually pulling the lever back in the day. Now I'm like, screw that. We have to do what the Democrats have been doing for years. We have to play on their terms and fight their dirty fight instead of being the good guys. I'm taking the white hat off. The black hat is coming on. I'm going into libraries and I'm going to go and vote on Tuesday because Monday I actually have some things to do.
Okay, well, I still believe there is one election day. And my favorite part is getting the sticker that I voted. I wear it loud and proud all day. And I used to say them all, but now I don't. But, Arden's going his own path this year, fine. But I will be up at 6 a.m. to go vote on election day.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I like I said, I had to finally break where I early voted during COVID because I had nothing else better to do. So I actually went, and it's bad. Like the Republican Party never catches up because that's how the game is played. The Democrats will go out and they'll vote early, vote often, Chicago, and that's how they build an insurmountable lead. They know how many votes they have already. They can take out as many votes. They know what it takes. I mean, which is really, really bad. So here's a question for you in the news.
Mm-hmm.
I was thought about this for a Ask Abigail, but what's your thoughts of P. Diddy? Anything?
P. Diddy is a fucking monster and disgusting, and he deserves everything he will get. And I'm sure that they will win in court and he will face life in prison. But I'm also sure that he will probably end up killing himself or somebody will murder him. And that's what he deserves.
I mean, he is kind of like the cool Epstein. Like he literally, the hip Epstein. I mean, if everything is true, then all of a sudden, like he did a lot of effed up stuff, just like Epstein, and he knows where everyone is. He knows who's been at his house for all these parties where minors were being molested, and people were being beaten. He was there. Who knows who else it was there? So, I mean, that is one where Twitter is not a good thing.
All right, let's move on to the next segment, and most likely the last segment, and that's sports.
Sports.
Arden, you can kick it off.
Well, it's Saturday, so I watched a little Maryland football. Maryland did win, and it was my brother was at Maryland, went to the game. But I also that it's been going on. Hockey actually just started its training camp already. Unbelievable. Baseball is in the final week of the season, so it'll be finishing up very shortly. And football season is going already. So this is the time where almost all sports are happening. The NBA is going to get their rookie camp started. But I wanted to mention before I ask you about your girl, did Shohei Ohtani, I will admit I was wrong. I mean, I actually said last few years he should not be an MVP because he played on a bad team and never won. This year, he's playing on a very good team, but he is the best player in baseball, hands down, even without pitching. And the other day, he had possibly the greatest game ever by a hitter. Now, I want this to sink in real fast if you're a baseball fan. He literally went 6 for 6 with 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. He became the first guy to steal 50 bases and hit 50 home runs in a season. There was only like 6 guys who did 40-40. He did 50-50. The guy is a monster. And he might be pitching again next year. Aaron Judge in the American League will win the MVP in the American League, but this guy is a freaking monster. And speaking of someone who might become a monster, how's your girl, Miss Clark?
Okay, Joe, you better pause it and hit fast forward because I'm going to talk a little bit more about Catlin Clark. Very quickly. Um, Overall, she had the following general statistics. This does not cover every record she broke, but she had the 19 2 points average and 5.7 rebound average and 8.4 assist average in the WNBA, making her part of the 19-5-8 club. Only 5 other instances has ever occurred in that they were 15-5 and 5. It's the first digit is points, Arden. Okay. The second digit is rebounds, and then the third one is 8. So for the rookie season, for a rookie, she also broke the single season scoring fastest WNBA player to reach 100 3-pointers. She did it in 34 games.
Wow.
She was also a rookie to record. Excuse me.
Trump just wants to keep speaking.
Also, she was the first to record 2 triple-doubles records for 3-pointers. I'm sorry, triple-doubles. She did it once, and that was a record of all time, but she did it twice in her rookie season. She also was a rookie that held the record for most 3-pointers and the record for number of assists. Now, her downside was she was the single season leader in turnovers. But she was also the single game record for assists with 19. And I could go on and on.
And on.
And on. But the last one I think I'll leave you with is that early before the season started, her jersey sold out in one day. The number of jerseys she sold was more than all of the Dallas Cowboys players combined for an entire year. So stick it to Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Now I gotta say, you have a little jersey.
I don't have jerseys. I have T-shirts.
You got the T-shirt, and like I said last week, she's doing what Patrick Mahomes is doing in the NFL. She's not coming out either and she's not being political at all, which is awesome because if she does, you're burning that shirt if she comes out.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I just I think she's a phenomenon.
She is, and they had the largest, as you said, the largest crowd ever for a WNBA game. I think next year you're going to see them play like a special arena, like a much bigger place. Like an the Astrodome doesn't really exist anymore, but they might play at something bigger that holds 50,000 people, just because of her, which you don't see. And unlike her friend Reese, who's pathetic.
Very pathetic.
What is it? Didn't she do another dumb thing this week?
Yeah, she tried to say that average points per game, that she, based on her 34 games,
her projections,
she projected that if she had gotten to play up to the 40th game, that she would have beaten Catlin Clark as far as average points. Now, how ridiculous is that? She projects that she would have gotten so many points in a game for the remaining games that she would have beaten Catlin Clark. That's pathetic. And with that, I think we're done for the night. And Arden, great show.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm ready to go to another library and just I don't want to use Trump and say fight. But you know what? We can talk. Be civil. Don't be an asshole. But you can have a conversation and let them run out of screaming out of a library. But follow us on Twitter at Crotchety Old Men. That's at Crotchety Old Men at Twitter. And we also are, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. We actually do like to hear from you. We do. We are Crotchety Old Man and a Woman at gmail.com. Also, we are Crotchety Old Men at gmail.com. That's the old email address that sometimes works better. If you like the show, spread the word. Send it to people. get people fired up. And if you don't like us, hey, if you want to comment, we don't care. We'll talk to you. We want you on the air with us. I think we might have a guest next week, or at least a studio member. Anyway, I'm going to say goodnight. Do you have anything else?
No, everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Arden's grooving.
People of Springfield, please don't eat
My pets. Would you do that? It's something else.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Meow, 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 meow.